I'm a big fan of Bill Barnwell. He went through each team's fatal flaws of the 9 that have clinched a playoff spot. So each fatal flaw, but the one team they also least want to see.
Okay.
All right? We'll have to go through all of them. But, Cleveland. But by the way, they also have the chances of winning the Super Bowl. So those Super Bowl odds are from ESPN's Football Power Index. So Cleveland has less than a 1% chance of winning the Super Bowl.
I believe it. That is a tough conference.
It is. Their fatal flaw is turnovers. And the team they don't want to see is Houston.
H-Town.
Which I found to be interesting. The Texans have turned the ball over on just 7% of their possessions this season, second lowest rate. The Browns forced 2 takeaways to get out of the big lead, to get out to a big lead against the Texans in a comfortable victory. But that was with Case Keenum. C.J. Stroud returned for Sunday's blowout win over the Titans. Will be back in the mix. And the Browns, and they could face the Browns in the wild card matchup if they were to win. So they don't want the Texans.
Boy, that is really impressive from the Texans that they turned the ball over that little, given the fact that, you've got a rookie quarterback. When you have a rookie quarterback, especially one like Stroud, who's considered kind of a, big faith in his arm, gunslinger type, that's really impressive. DeMeco Ryans has done such a fantastic job there, as has Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator, one of the guys we talked about earlier today when we were talking about the best offensive coordinators in the league. But, you look at the fact that Stroud, they've had to have Keenum start a couple different games. Keenum and Stroud almost have the same amount of interceptions. Stroud's thrown 473 passes. Keenum's thrown 53. That tells you how well C.J. Stroud has protected the ball.
Wow.
It's really impressive for such a young football team that they protect the ball as well as they do, because that's usually one of the killer things for young football teams is turnovers.
All right, next up, the Rams. Chance to win the Super Bowl, 1%. Their fatal flaw is kicking.
They got Brett Maher, baby. Money Maher.
So they've won 6 of 7 since their Week 10 bye. Their lone loss came in overtime to the Ravens. Now, kicking went their way last week, where the Giants, their 4th kicker of the season, Mason Crosby, missed a 54-yarder. McVay's team is last in the NFL in value gained on field goals and extra points. They've hit on just 81% of their field goal and extra point attempts in 2023, 31st in the league. Only the Patriots have been worse. They started the season with Brett Maher, and then they cut Maher in October and replaced him with Lucas Havrisik, who'd been on the practice squad of the Browns. He wasn't any better. And now they're going back to Maher for the final week of the regular season. Who do they want to avoid? This is going to hit you. This is going to hit you in the stomach.
The Cowboys.
No, Tampa, because they don't want to be cruel to Brett Maher making him kick in their postseason game.
That's mean.
That's mean.
That's
man.
mean from Bill Barnwell.
That is very mean. By the way, I don't think they have any chance of playing Tampa unless both make the NFC Championship game.
You know what's absolutely wild?
What's that?
Is that you mentioned they're 81% or whatever it is, and that was second to last in the league. This tells you how efficient kicking has become at the NFL level. Adam Vinatieri, who led the NFL in field goal percentage 3 different times in his career, just retired a couple years ago. For his career, he was an 83% kicker. And 81% is now second to last in the league.
Yeah.
I think Vanderjagt at one point when he held the record as the most accurate kicker in NFL history, he was at 86% or something. Yeah, he was at first career, he was 86%. And now 81 is damn near bottom of the league. It's just become such an efficient position.
It really has.
That it stands out when somebody like Brett Maher has a meltdown.
And everyone still puts Vinatieri as the GOAT. Man, Justin Tucker. It is Justin Tucker.
J Tuck. Hook him.
J Tuck. Philadelphia. What are their chances to win the Super Bowl?
Phil is 0% with that football team right now. Realistically, they're probably going to say, 3%?
1.9.
That's generous.
Their fatal flaw is pass defense. They wonder. Frustrated Eagle fans might wonder why we're being so specific by picking on one flaw. Now, their pass defense had 70 regular season sacks. Was about to light up the Giants and the 49ers in the postseason. And they lose Jonathan Gannon. They lose Javon Hargrave.
Oh, they wanted to lose Jonathan Gannon.
He's
an awful defensive coordinator. Fire him. He's terrible. He only, coached the defense that led the NFL. I remember one of the greatest tweets last year from an Eagles fan was, it's hard to communicate to people that Jonathan Gannon's bad at his job when the Eagles are about to set a record for sacks, but he's really bad at his job. I wish people could understand that. And then it's like, well, here you are.
Yeah, Philadelphia is 29th in QBR allowed.
817 wants you to quit biting your nails, by the way.
That's Sarah.
I don't know. It says 817 Choppy, quit biting your nails.
Right.
It's probably Bassick.
Probably is, sir. I got a hangnail here thing. Not a hangnail, but it's like digging into my skin.
Ugh.
And it hurts. Philly is 29th in QBR allowed. They've allowed 34 TD passes, one short of Washington for most in the National Football League. Oh man, this is a shot. The Eagles turn average quarterbacks they face this season into a typical performance from Dak Prescott, who's going to be the outskirts of the MVP discussion. Okay, that's not a shot.
That's a big praise. That's a shot at the Eagles' pass defense, which is awful.
They do not want to face the Niners, who beat them 42-19. Next one's Detroit. Detroit Super Bowl odds 2.2. Their fatal flaw is beating pressure. Goff is one of the smoothest quarterbacks in the game with time to throw. 77 QBR without pressure, third best mark for any quarterback. He was fifth in 2022. But no quarterback in the league has a bigger discrepancy when facing pressure than him. He has a 68-point QBR difference between how he performs without pressure versus with.
That's significant, 68.
When not pressured, his QBR is 77. When pressured, his QBR is under 9. That is unbelievable. Second worst completion percentage over expectation under pressure. He's thrown 8 picks on just 135 pass attempts under duress. That's more than twice the league average for pressured quarterbacks. So there you go. Their team they want to avoid? The Dallas Cowboys.
Ooh, I think the Dallas Cowboys want to avoid the Detroit Lions.
Oh, explain.
I don't think that you want to welcome that angry hornet's nest 2-3 weeks after what happened in there. I don't think you want to welcome that back into AT&T Stadium. And the Lions showed you they can hang with you. They can play with you at AT&T Stadium in a way that nobody else really has this year.
Okay, well, here's what the write-up says. The Lions fans might feel they should have beaten the Cowboys after that controversial scenario on the 2-point play at the end of the game, but Detroit was outplayed by Mike McCarthy's team for most of the contest. The Cowboys lost a fumble through the end zone for a touchback and were in a position to seal the win late before that questionable tripping call and Peyton Hendershot. The Lions can beat anybody on their day, but there are far more comfortable matchups for the Lions in the NFC. I mean, yeah, I agree that I think that CD play, the fumble through the end zone, but let's not forget, I mean, that was a big time swing on the Dak TD pass to CD Lamb.
Oh yeah, that was a play that very easily could have been a safety.
It could have been a safety. It could have been a strip sack. I mean, it could have been. I mean, right? I mean, it could have been. That's a 9-point swing right there. So yeah, they lose the fumble out of the end zone, but they gain that. I mean, I don't know that I want to see Detroit here.
I would not want to play Detroit. I would pick Dallas to beat Detroit. Don't mistake it. I would absolutely pick the Cowboys in that game.
Yeah.
But I don't want to mess with an angry, motivated Dan Campbell football team, especially after Detroit just came in here and they outgained you. Like, Detroit played you pretty close. This wasn't just some fluky performance. Like, Detroit played you really well, and Detroit's a talented football team.
Yeah, they had almost 100 yards more on the ground.
Yeah.
It would be a tight game. It would be a tight game, I think. Number 5, Miami. Their chance to win the Super Bowl is about 4%. Their fatal flaw is red zone defense.
Their fatal flaw is playing teams that are good.
Their fatal flaw is road games, too. Teams to avoid the Buffalo Bills. The Bills have been the league's second best offense inside the red zone this year, 65% of the touchdowns. Tie for the fourth most trips inside the 20 for any team, meaning they get into the red zone nearly as often as any NFL team. When these two teams played in Week 4, the Bills were 5 of 6 in the red zone. Dolphins need to stop that from happening again this weekend. Next up, the Chiefs at 4.
We haven't gotten to the Cowboys yet.
No, we've not.
Ooh.
Their chance of winning the Super Bowl is 4%. Their fatal flaw is catching passes.
That sucks.
Oh, man. Patrick Mahomes is throwing the shortest average pass in the NFL and ranks 28th in the league in QBR and deep throws.
Look, he took Dante Hall's advice. Become check down Brady. Everything underneath.
Check down. Andy Reid's wideouts are dropping about 7.5% of the passes thrown in that direction. Worst mark in the NFL by a comfortable margin. Who do they want to avoid? The Believe Land Browns. Jim Schwartz's defense in Cleveland has a league-best QBR against running backs and tight ends this season.
Take away those options. Take away those safety valves.
Only the Panthers have allowed fewer receiving yards per game to backs and tight ends than the Browns. A matchup where Holmes needs to throw to his wide receivers might not go well. Number 3. The Dallas Cowboys. Chance to win the Super Bowl is what?
12%.
11.9. You read my email.
No, I did not. Don't Sean
11.9.
me. Don't Sean me.
Their fatal flaw is run defense. Cowboys are built to be bullies. They've got a great passing attack designed to get them ahead in early contests or at the very least dare teams to chase them in shootouts. Once they get a lead, they make you one-dimensional. It is curtains. Pass rush is too dominant when they can pin their ears back, gut to the QB. Secondary has too many ball hawks. If you toss the ball at 40, 50 yards or 40 or 50 times, they will nab 1 or 2. If you get an early lead, though, you've got a shot. They're not effective when they're forced to drop back. They're forced into a drop-back passing attack. Most notably, they struggle to stop the run. 31st, or 31st, as I've said before, in defensive success rate against the run, meaning opposing offenses stay ahead of schedule or pick up first downs or touchdowns on the ground at the NFL's second highest rate against them. A team that doesn't have Van Der Esch right now and uses a 200-pound converted safety in Marquise Bell as a starting safety most weeks doesn't want to be in a position to chase down ball carriers over and over and over again.
Fair. That's fair.
We've seen this prop up in their losses. In Week 3, the Cardinals ran the ball 30 times for 222 yards, 2 scores. The 12th most rushing yards by any team in a single game all season. San Fran dropped 41 carries and 170 yards in their blowout win a couple weeks later. They did hold Christian McCaffrey to 51 yards on 19 attempts. The Bills sealed the image of the Cowboys, though, racking up 266 on 49 carries. 25 carries for a 179-yard performance from James Cook. They are not the biggest team at the second and third level. Their issues on defense haven't really been about tackling. They're getting out-muscled at the line of scrimmage. Opposing rushers averaged 2.5 yards before first contact against the Cowboys, 23rd in the league. In their losses, that figure rises to 3.0, which is 29th. Without slowing those backs down, the Cowboys allow running backs to reach 15-plus miles an hour at the eighth highest rate of any NFL team. Nearly 22% of opposing carries reach 15 miles an hour.
It's not good. That's not good. So I can guess who the team they want to avoid is. Well, I know the team they want to avoid. There's only one team.
All right, give me both. The team you think and the team that they should be.
Well, I mean, it's the same one.
It's the same one.
It is the San Francisco 49ers.
Well,
you don't want to play that football team.
Yep. You've seen their 2 recent playoff games and the blowout loss this year. The Niners convert 29% of their rush attempts into first downs, second best rate, and 46% of their runs result in successful plays with the offense by EPA, fourth best. McCaffrey's calf injury could complicate things, but he's got 20 days off. Jordan Mason had 10 carries for 69 yards. Nice. When these two teams played earlier in the year.
Yeah, look, I don't have a ton of confidence that much has changed for the Cowboys since Week 5. I mean, do you feel like there's anything different about this team? I mean, the team's obviously different in certain ways, but do you think anything's different about that matchup? I think if they go up and play the 49ers tomorrow on a neutral field, I think San Francisco probably beats you by 14 to 17 points. That's just where I think it is. It is a nightmare matchup for them.
Nightmare.
By the way, we're getting several contributions for the things that everybody mispronounces, the things they say. 214 says Mike Bassett doesn't say opinion. He says opinion.
He says opinion. Yeah.
Opinion. I can't pronounce that one. A lot of people up here in Wisconsin, the older folk pronounce wash as worsh. Do you ever get that? The Yankee thing saying warsh or worsh?
You think it's a Yankee thing?
That's where I've heard it from people before. Up north in the Yankees, I've heard them say it.
I've always thought that was like an Alabama. That was big in Tennessee.
Was it?
Washington.
Warsh. Yeah, and that's the other thing. Some Washington here. 214 says library pronounced as library.
Library.
Got that one there. Irregardless says 214, which is not a word. And I think that's what they're pointing out. 469, Chick-fil-A, correct. What is this? Chick-a-fil-A, how my southern butt says it. Chick-a-fil-A instead of Chick-fil-A. So you can keep sending in your mispronunciations on the TrekRex.com fan text at 877-881-1053.
All right, now more coming in. We ain't scared of Detroit. Let's see.
There's no, and somebody else said, Bobby, you sound scared. It's not scared. Like, you guys also sounded scared the first time the San Francisco playoff game came around. I was like, hey, this is a team that can challenge you. And then they beat you, okay? So, like, you just have to have a healthy respect for there are ways that these teams can challenge you. I would pick Dallas against anybody but San Francisco. But there are ways that those teams can challenge you, and they can beat you on a given Sunday.
Another one, to be fair, we fumbled on the one and had a fumble recovery that should have been challenged. We would beat them down if we played them again. I don't remember that fumble recovery that should have been challenged.
I don't recall that either.
Dallas outplayed Detroit pretty handily. They fumbled the ball through the end zone. They'd be favored by 5 against Detroit. Let's see. Have we outgained any team on the ground this season? It's a good question. Bobby, the Cowboys are the Dolphins. The only good team we beat with certainty was Philly. And we know now they weren't any good. I will say that one thing that
they beat Detroit. Detroit's a good team.
Right, they are. And I do think this. You know, the Cowboys are much better when they know a team, when they're familiar with them. If they play Detroit again, that'd be the third time they faced them in a year. I think that they would be. That's big.
It's a lot of familiarity.
That's familiarity right there. They're no longer an uncommon opponent, as Coach would say.
It's just like anything.
It's just like anything. So the Cowboys were a 12% chance to win the Super Bowl. Number 2 is Baltimore at 29%. So there's a gap.
Oh, so number 1 is not the Baltimore Ravens.
No. So their fatal flaw is fumbles, and they want to avoid Cleveland. The Browns have forced fumbles on 3% of snaps.
Sounds like a lot of people want to avoid Cleveland.
For any defense, Jags behind them at 2.7. So there you go. And the number 1 is San Francisco with a 35% chance of winning the Super Bowl. And the team they want to avoid is Baltimore.
Yeah.
This one seems a little obvious. We just saw it a couple weeks ago, but Baltimore's been the NFL's best starting team. They're the best first quarter plus 66 and the best first half plus 142 in point differentials, making them the most likely team to get out to an early lead against the Niners. And as we saw in Christmas, if they get that lead, watch out. Watch out.
Honestly, to me, I think we are heading to that collision course, though. Ravens 49ers. That's what the Super Bowl is. That's going to be my pick at the start of the playoffs. Sorry to spoil it. But, I think if you can get somebody to pick off San Francisco for you before the NFC title game, that is going to be the best shot for the Cowboys. The Cowboys need somebody to do their dirty work for them.
Yeah.